Latest football news,
engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio, Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, as always, and I'm joined this week by Dan, as always. Dan, how are you doing? It's been a mixed week. It's now December. It is December. We're in the festive period of football, and football games are just coming left, right, and centre, aren't they?
Yeah, and usually I'll be happy with that, but the way Ipswich is playing at the moment, I'm dreading it. So yeah, not a good week of football, but overall I'm okay.
Overall is okay, yeah. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the show about Ipswich Town and all that, but before we move on the show, I better mention our social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud at Pitchside Talk. So we've got coming in the show today talking about Ipswich Town. The last two games have had 2 games in 4 days. That's just a new normal really now, having all these games left, right and centre. And Paul Lambert's, comments I'm going to say about fans, media, all sorts, and his job security. It was confirmed about if his job is safe or not. You probably know if you've read it. I think every Ipswich Town fan has read it. The Premier League was back for another week, 10 matches in game week 10, and the Champions League for match week 5. Only one more match week left of the Champions League group stage to go. We'll have to see how our English clubs got on in that, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town and the troubles that they're in at the moment.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And before we move on with the show, I better mention our social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows. And Dan, if I'm right, actually, this is our 70th episode, if I'm correct. Don't quote me on it. It is.
Yeah, you're right. It is our 70th episode.
I'm actually right for once. I always just forget the numbers perfectly. So this is how bad I am. I have to go onto the YouTube, which I highly recommend you do at Pitchside Talk, and I have to actually look what episode's wrong because I keep forgetting. I've got a goldfish memory.
Getting closer to 100.
If we get close to 100, that's when my first grey hair starts coming out. That shows how old the show is. But Dan, we better move on with, I think, the most... I don't know where to start with this. Ipswich Town, I'm going to start with Ipswich Town. And yet again, they played 2 games in 4 days. It's just a new normal. It's how this new normal football season is working. And so Saturday, it ended the hat-trick of home games with another defeat to Charlton. They scored twice, taking 3 points as Ipswich Town, produced another flat performance. And this time the fans were calling for Lambert to go, get out the club and go. But that didn't happen. So Tuesday, they played against Oxford and it ended in a 0-0 draw as both sides looked lacklustre. Ipswich only producing their first shot in the 91st minute. May I stress, the 91st minute was their first shot on target. Dan, I'm struggling to find anything positive to say here from that performance. Apart from that, Ipswich Town are now 5th, instead of 6th in the table.
Yeah, we may have gone up one place, but the game was absolutely dreadful. I think the lineup that he put out, I said on Twitter when you asked me, I said that's the best lineup in ages because you know my thoughts on Alan Judge. He wasn't starting, so I was very happy with that. And obviously, Dobra came in. We've been calling for that for a while. Maybe, it was hard. It's hard for him because he hasn't really played in the first team at all. And going straight back in, I think maybe coming off the bench would have been better for him. But I was pleased to see Dobra starting. Lancaster was there as well, so I was like, that looks like quite an attacking lineup. But there was just absolutely nothing, was there? There was just nothing. I think it was 2 pretty poor teams. Oxford, they weren't really any good. Ipswich were awful as well. And you could just see straight away from the start of the game that it was going to be 0-0 because it was so dull. And I think, I didn't watch the game myself, but, I saw people saying that they're just uninterested. They just didn't know what to say about it. They're so uninterested, and that's a real problem because we don't want fans to get uninterested, but that's what's happening. But yeah, absolutely awful performance. I think it's the way we're lining up still. We talked a lot about the formation last week, the 4-3-3 that we're trying to play. Well, that's not really a 4-3-3. It's more of a 4-5-1 or a 4-1-4-1. And it's just not working at all. Every single game now, we don't look like scoring. And to have our first shot in the 91st minute?
91st.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful. It's just unacceptable, isn't it, really? But Lambert's safe. Even after these awful performances and no goal threat, and the fans hating him now, his job is still safe, which is, I just don't understand what Marcus Evans is seeing. But yeah, just a nothing game against an Oxford side that haven't kept a clean sheet all season. Along come Ipswich, it's just dreadful. It's depressing. It's depressing to watch us now.
Yeah, we'll get on a little bit more into Lambert's future just in a little bit of time. But moving back to that performance, no threat whatsoever from Ipswich Town. Oxford have the second leakiest defence in the league this season. 5 conceits from the last 30 games. 3 of them have come against Ipswich Town quite weirdly. Ipswich picked up 10 points in the last 9 games, which is 1.1 points per game. And they're fighting for promotion here. But that's not promotion form. That's relegation form, isn't it? 1.1 points per game from 9, sorry.
Yeah, it is. You said we're fighting for a promotion, but we're just not. I know we're in the playoffs. I know we're 5th, but we're not. Like, we're so obviously going to drop off the way we're playing. We've got games against Peterborough coming up. I know they just lost to Wimbledon and Chorley in the FA Cup, so they're on quite a bad run, but it's still Peterborough. Portsmouth, we've got coming up as well. We've already lost to them this season, so it's a bit debatable whether we're in a promotion fight. A neutral would say that we are, but I don't think we are. And yeah, as you said, it's relegation form, isn't it? I saw a stat that in the last 46 games, if that was a whole season, we would finish 19th in League One, which is just not good enough. And the only reason why that is happening, in my opinion, or the biggest reason why that's happening, in my opinion, is the manager. I know the players aren't performing, but that performance against Oxford screamed like a performance where the players aren't playing for the manager anymore. They just don't care anymore. I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that the players know we're not playing well. The players know, we saw in Luke Wolford's interview, he said he understands why the fans are frustrated because we're not playing well. But Lambert comes out after every single game. And again, against this Oxford side that have the leakiest defence in the league, have conceded in every single game. And he says we played well. It's utter, I nearly swore then, utter rubbish, George. Utter rubbish. I don't think we're going to finish in the playoffs this year. I don't think we're in a promotion fight. We'll have to see how it goes. I know it's still early, but he's got the rest of the season, and with what he's doing, we're nowhere near it.
Yeah, well, before the game, Tuesday morning to be precise, Lambert got a vote of confidence from Marcus Evans, as Lionel said in an interview. Lambert's job is safe. I can stress that is apparently safe. And Marcus Evans is concerned, is aware of the concerns among the fans. But Dan, I'm trying to remain impartial here. I am trying my best here. But what is he seeing that is different to what the fans are seeing? Because the stats don't lie, and the form doesn't lie, and the performance on the pitch don't lie. So what's he seeing that we can't? Because if it was any other club, like Sunderland, was it Phil Parkinson, was it one loss in 6 games? He's been sacked. Lambert, he's doing worse than him, and he's still on the job. Like, what is going on?
I know, it's utterly ridiculous. We saw with Sunderland. They're on better form than us, and they still sacked their manager. Why can't we follow in their footsteps? He says he's aware of the concerns the fans have. It's a bit more than concern. We know that we're going nowhere, And if we don't get out of this league this season, then we're staying in this league for a long time. And that's why you saw the banner being put up yesterday. You know, the future of our club is at stake. TikTok Marcus Evans, and that is brilliant from Blue Action. I know it won't affect them, but we need to put our point across, because the manager and the owners don't know what we think at the moment, because the fans aren't there. And I'm pleased that the fans are going back. I know a lot of people don't want to go, but hopefully 2,000 is enough to put our point across. But yeah, I don't know what Marcus Evans sees in him. Surely he's looking at the performances. He's been there the last 3 games. Surely he's seen the way we're playing and the form that we're on, and where this club is going. Because it's a business for him, isn't it? It's a business. He's not a football man. When he come in, he said he doesn't really know much about football. You know, we've had owners in the past that love the club and actually care about how we're doing and are from this area as well. Marcus Evans, he owns loads of hospitality companies, and it's all a business to him. If he's earning the money, then that's fine. And I think that's the big problem. He can't afford to sack Lambert, and he doesn't have anyone in to replace him. He can't afford it all. So he's just saying, let's just stick with it because we have no money. But we need to think of the bigger picture here. We are not going anywhere, Lambert, and I think maybe if we don't go up this season, he might be sacked at the end of the season. He probably will be. I don't know who will come in then, because all the managers will probably be taken by then. But he needs to act before it's too late, in my opinion. And I know he won't, but hopefully the fans will be able to put across what we think. And as I said to you before the show, I've never felt so disconnected to the club at all in the years supporting it. I know we haven't been there, but from what's happened in the past week or so, the club does not care about us fans at all, in the slightest.
I have to ask you then, why did he give him a 5-year contract then? Like, if he can't afford to get rid of him out of his 5-year contract, why give him that in the first place? Do we know why? It's now. It's just I'm bemused. I don't know what to say, Dan. That's how bad it's got. I don't know what to say to make the situation sound better.
No, well, you can't, can you? You can't make the situation better. And he shouldn't have given Lambert a 5-year contract. That was the most ridiculous decision. You know, we were on a really bad run of form at that point, around January time. I guess he could afford it then because, you know, we weren't in a pandemic at the time. You know, that was a few months later. But I just think that Marcus Evans has got this as an excuse now for whatever happens. He's going to say, we're losing money. We were before the lockdown anyway, but, you know, we're losing more money now. As you said, you just don't know what to say. You don't know how to make it better because it just won't get better. And the longer that we keep Lambert, the longer this club will be in a rut and the longer we'll be in this league. And who knows what can happen. We've seen us get relegated from the Championship. So if we stay in this league for long, who knows?
Yes, who knows? Well, speaking of Paul Lambert, he spoke after the game and he criticised, he labelled the criticism that he's been getting as absolutely nonsense. And because these, and you know, is it right to criticise these guys? And he came out with some more quotes here, which I'm just about to get out for you now. So, you know, he blamed the media, or he blamed the fans and the media for attacking his players, saying that they don't deserve it. You know, it's not good on these young kids to get this criticism when they've only just come in. But he's criticising young players, so I don't know what to do. Dan is just absolutely distraught here. I'm going to read some more out as well. You know, he got a bit feisty with the interview of Brenner from Busy Radio Suffolk, saying, "Brenner, everything you say to me is negative. I would hate to be married to you, honestly." It's getting that bad. And also, you know, when they asked him, does the criticism bother you? And this is the quote that made me laugh a little bit here. Did you see what happened at Celtic the other day? You know, they had that massive protest. I played in front of that. I know exactly what that's like. Does that bother me? No. Does the press bother me? No. I've played at big clubs. I've managed big clubs, apparently. I've had a career where the pressure is incredible, absolutely incredible. I've never wilted once. I don't expect to wilter again unless Evans or Marcus says something different. And that's it. He ended it like that. And then he said about, you know, East Anglia Daily Times, I don't read your stuff because you write everything negative about me and it's incredible. I don't get it. But Dan, is he right to attack the fans of the media? Because he is right. Ipswich have got 9 injuries this season. He is having to play the kids. That is, it's not him lying there. He's telling the truth there. And we're not even halfway through the season yet. Does he deserve a little bit of benefit of the doubt here that he's got a depleted squad? But firstly, is he right to attack those fans and the media? Because everything they have been saying is negative, but it is negative at the moment. What could we talk about that's positive?
Yeah, he is an absolute embarrassment. He actually is. He is so unbelievably arrogant, isn't he? He thinks he's bigger than he is. Well, who is he to say that? Like, our own manager is saying that stuff in an interview. It's absolutely, the fact that he's come out and said, "Oh, I've played for big clubs. I've played for Celtic. I know what it's like." Who cares about who you've played for? Who actually cares? Like, I'm trying so hard not to swear right now, George.
Please don't.
Who cares that you've played for Celtic? Here and now, we are awful, and we need to get this club to where it should be. We don't care who you've played for in the past. He has done absolutely nothing since he left Norwich. Absolutely nothing. He's managed Wolves, Blackburn and Stoke. What's he done at them clubs? They all wanted him out after about 15 games. They all hated him. At Norwich, it was, you've probably seen Ipswich fans say this, it was his assistant, Ian Culverhouse. He was the one that I think that affected it. Because Lambert was the motivator, should we say. But Culverhouse was the tactician. He got Norwich from League One to the Premier League, but without even Ian Culverhouse, I don't think they would have done that. So, what's he done in the last since he left Norwich? He's done nothing. And to say that the negativity and what the media and the fans are saying is nonsense. It's unbelievable that Marcus Evans still wants him at this club. It's unbelievable that it's just deja vu, isn't it? The stubbornness, the arrogance. We are looking at another Mick McCarthy, aren't we? It's just the same. It's the same again. We struggle to find managers that, I know we had a good relationship with Mick, obviously, in the playoff years, and we love Mick at that point. But when was the last time we had a manager that the fans actually really liked? I think Jim Magilton at the start of his tenure, the fans were happy with that. Obviously, he'd played for us before. He's a legend at the club. But that got sour in the end. It all went wrong when he left because we were 11th in the Championship when he got sacked. And we wanted him out because we were 11th in the Championship. So I think probably Jim Magilton was the last time we had a proper good relationship with a manager. We've given Lambert time the last few seasons, but that's it now. That's it for me. I don't like him. He needs to go now. And the stuff he says in the interviews, it frustrates me so much. You can probably tell how angry I was getting just then. But yeah, that interview there, absolutely ridiculous. And Lambert out.
I have to say, firstly, a big thank you to you for not swearing there. I was actually quite concerned.
It was very close.
I was just about to have to Google, how we're going to get away with you swearing live on air. But we're fine. We've got away with that. But moving away from that, move away from the mess that happened on Tuesday, Ipswich Town are back in action on the road to Plymouth, playing in front of their first crowd, I think, this season, if I'm correct. Plymouth are going to have a crowd there. Yes, we are all correct. Yeah. A side that's been newly promoted to the league, who currently sit 13th after 5 wins, 4 draws and 5 losses. But recently, they've lost 3 games in a row. A 5-1 to Fleetwood, a 1-0 to Peterborough, and a 4-0 to Rochdale. So it should be really easy for Ipswich, but we will never know. But the last time these two sides met was the 09/010 season, and Ipswich lost 2-0 to Plymouth at home. But also, Dan, this is a fun fact for you. Bradley White-Phillips scored in that game. Yannick Blassie assisted the first goal for him as well. And Alan Judge came on as a substitute as well for Plymouth. Hey, that's a little connection there.
My God.
Yeah. I've done
Jesus, that's mental.
I've done my research. So, Dan, can finally Ipswich end this miserable run? Or are Plymouth going to continue their great form run, a great home run this season? I know they lost last time out to Rochdale 4-0, but previous from that, 8 games, 5 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. Ipswich haven't been too great away from home this season, but will things change ever so slightly now playing in front of a crowd? I know it's going to be a Plymouth crowd, but will it change?
No, you just got to say it's not going to change because there's no confidence in us fans at the moment. We're going away to Plymouth. They were unbeaten until Tuesday. They unbeaten at home until Tuesday. They're the best home record in the league. And then they lost 4-0 to Rochdale, which was quite a surprise. I don't know if you saw, but there was 17 minutes of added time at the end of the first half in that game.
No.
Yeah, that was mental. But I'm not confident. It's a game that you think we can win. I don't know where Plymouth are in the league. I think they're around mid-table.
13th.
13th. They've conceded a lot in the past few games. I just think it's going to be another bore draw. I think we'll go into the game. We won't have any goal threat. We'll be able to keep a clean sheet, but it won't improve our mood. It'll be another 0-0 away from home. And then we've got some tough games coming up against some of the top sides. So I'm going to go for a 0-0. I know Frank Nooble or Nooble, our former player, he plays for them, so he'll probably score, but I'm going to say 0-0.
Well, that is Dan's predictions for this game. Well, for tomorrow's game against I want to say Peterborough, Plymouth. Sorry, for that. And also, that's the end of the Ipswich Town section. Let us know what you think about that on Twitter about Paul Lambert. Should he be there? Should he be gone? What should happen next for Ipswich? Because at the moment, it's a complete mess, really, for Ipswich Town. But when we come back, we're going to restore some normality now. We're going to calm down. We're going to take a nice little deep breathe. And we're going to talk about the Premier League and the game week 10. We're going to have 20 teams in action, 10 games. What happens next?
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
And welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan. Dan, I hope you now calm down from that nice little session. It's a nice song we had there just to zen, put you back in the mode. Zen. We did some Zen moments there.
Yeah, we did. It was them Lambert comments. They set me off a little bit. But triggered. I'm calm now. I'm calm.
He was a little bit triggered, but welcome back to Pitchside Talk here. If you want to follow us on any of the social medias, it's pretty simple. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of this show, if you missed any of that, that'll be at Fridays at 6 p.m. If you want to listen to that. If you missed anything out of the Ipswich Town section, want to re-listen to Dan getting angry, that'll be up at 6 p.m. on Friday. Now, Dan, we're moving into the Premier League. Game week 10, 20 teams in action, 25 goals are scored across those 10 matches. And here are the results. So starting off with Friday, Newcastle won 2-0 against Crystal Palace. Newcastle have won 5 out of the previous 9 away Premier League games now in London after a previous run of 3 wins out of 24. So things slowly changing now for Newcastle and London. Liverpool drawed 1-1 with Brighton. Manchester City won 5-0 against Burnley. And this has now actually broken some history. So Man City are the only second side in English football history to win 4 consecutive games at home against the same side by 5 goals or more. And the previous record was set by Notts County versus Port Vale between October 1893, sorry, I can't speak, to February 1907. Wow.
That is a stat and a half, George. Jesus.
That's a stat and a half, and I couldn't even read it properly. It shows how good. See, I haven't done my Zen at the moment. I'm still triggered from that, but there, see, I haven't Zened out yet. Everton lost 1-0 to Leeds. Leeds picked up their first away victory at Everton since August 1990. Yeah, failed to win that in their 13 previous attempts at Goodison Park. West Brom won against Sheffield United. This is West Brom's first victory of the league season. Their first victory since the 17/18 season, which was against Tottenham on the 5th of May of 18, where Jake Livermore actually scored in that game. So, swings and roundabouts. And Sheffield United are now the third side in English football history to only pick up 1 or fewer points after 10 league games. And the previous 2 sides did that was Manchester United in the 1930/31 season and West Brom Chalvin in the 85-86 season.
You're on fire
look,
today.
I am on fire. See, I've done my research once, but
Yeah.
they're breaking all the stats for all the wrong reasons. And then moving on to Sunday's games, Manchester United won 3-2 against Southampton. And if I move over here, Tottenham had drawn 0-0 to Chelsea. Tottenham picked up 13 points away from home in 5 Premier League away games. That's the most since the 91/92 season. You have to remember the time they couldn't win a Premier League game or even pick up any points away from home. And also, it's the first goalless draw between the two sides since November 2015. Wolves won 2-1 against Arsenal. And before we move on to that game, we better stress that Raul Jimenez is now doing well in hospital after suffering a fractured skull. He'll be leaving hospital early next week, according to the Wolves club doctor. So everybody here at Pistol, we all wish him a speedy recovery. And we want to see him back because he's a quality player. And he's a quality player. And, you know, he's a fantastic player. But, you know, head injuries need to be taken seriously in football because they are unfortunately not. With David Luiz come back on with a bleeding head and they just kept him on there. I'm sorry, but they need to take it seriously. Moving away from that. Arsenal have made their worst start in the last 39 years. 13 points from 10 games. Not looking too good for them at the moment. Fulham won 2-1 against Leicester. Fulham have beaten the top 4 side of the Premier League for the first time since March 2013. Fantastic. And that side was Tottenham, with Dimitri Bergta scored in that game. And finally, West Ham won 2-1 against Aston Villa. This is West Ham's first 3 consecutive Premier League games that they've won for the first time since May 2019. Whew. We got there in the end. But Dan, starting off with the winners, West Bromwich Albion. They finally got their first win of the league season after 8 games. They finally did it. They beat Sheffield United 1-0 thanks to Conor Gallagher's goal. Stamford Bridge labelled that as a psychological boost, and it's more than 3 points to them. A big win for them. At the time, it moved them outside the relegation zone, but now they're gone back in there by 1 point. But this is such a big boost to them. And, you know, they have been playing all right this season. I think they've proved a few people wrong. They've been unlucky in some games, should have got a point against Tottenham, and also Manchester United should have got a point there. But this win, will this add some boost to them, and can they do it? Can they survive? Are we going to say, can they do it?
It's going to be difficult, isn't it? You know, West Brom, they were a team that everyone put in their bottom 3 pretty much. It's going to be a difficult ask. This Premier League season is quite surprising at the moment, so who knows? But I think I'd still put them in the bottom 3 in my predictions. But this win, massive confidence boost for them. Obviously, they've had quite a tough start. As you said, they were unlucky in some games, but, you know, coming up against Sheffield United, they've had a poor start as well. So, you know, it's a game where they go into it thinking that it's a game that they can win. And they went and done that. A great finish from Gallagher. I think he was on loan at Charlton maybe at some point. But, yeah, I think, you know, that'll be definitely a confidence boost for them. You know, they've got some decent players in their squad. They signed some of their loan players that they had in the Championship last year that were good for them. So, you know, they've got some good players in their squad, and, you know, they've got a good manager as well. So, you know, the setup might be good for them to stay up. But I think I'd still have them in my bottom 3. But with this Premier League so far this season, it's been a big surprise all around the league. So who knows?
Yes, who knows? And another side that picked up a victory this weekend was Fulham. Yes, that season outside of the relegation zone as they beat Leicester. Yes, Leicester. Scott Parker was delighted with the victory. He said the first goal, the way they scored that was absolutely brilliant from Lookman. And they scored a penalty. Shock horror. They scored a penalty. They've been having problems with penalties recently. I think they missed one against Sheffield United. Mitrovic skied that over the bar. They did that infamous Panenka penalty, which would have got them a point against West Ham. And they missed that penalty against Everton. I can't think who missed that now. Was it Caballero missed that penalty? I think, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it was.
He skied that over the bar, which would have seen them get a point against Everton. But Caballero put the penalty away this time. It's a good start for them, you know, as they've now faced a difficult run of Manchester City and Liverpool at home. But Fulham, the way the season's going at the moment, they're 1 point outside the relegation zone. I think we can say they can do it, can't we? If, you know, they look probably the best out of those bottom 3 sides. I know Burnley had a tough game against Manchester City. They're destined to lose that. Sheffield United look nowhere near it at the moment. West Brom sort of proves some of the doubters wrong. But Fulham...
Yeah, you never know. They are looking really good. You know, as we've said about the penalties, they've had a lot of chances to get more points than they should have done. So they've had a decent start. You know, they're still in the bottom four, obviously, but you know, getting results is a results business. So going away at Leicester are massive favourites for that, obviously, with the way they've started in the league. But for them to go there and get the win, massive result for them. That'll give them loads of confidence that they can go and beat them teams near the top. You'd think of that bottom four as it is now is probably going to be how it finishes, but Fulham could go on a run. You know, they've looked pretty good in a few games. You know, people were kind of questioning Scott Parker. You know, he retired from football and kind of pretty much went straight into the job, which, you know, it's a big task for him. But he got them promoted last year. You know, he's done well so far. So who says that he can't go and keep them up this year? Obviously, it's gonna be difficult. There's games, as you said, they've got tough games coming up. So you know, this result is big for them coming into the games against City and Liverpool. But I think if they can get a run going, I think, as you said, they're the most likely to stay up. So out of that bottom four. But you know, one of them teams could go on a run still. So it's hard. I think it's still hard to say who's gonna stay up and who's gonna come down. But I think this result will definitely give them a lot of confidence that they can do that.
Yes, a lot of confidence. And now moving on to the losers this week. Starting off with Sheffield United, a big game against West Brom. At 6 points, I think we can sort of say, in our eyes, it was sort of a time for them to start off their season, get something right in their season and to close down that gap and get outside the relegation. So, but Cristiano's side came up short. 1 point from 10 games compared to last season, which was 13 from 10 games. You know, Wilder was left frustrated and left scratching his head because their side didn't finish their chances. They had plenty of chances, but they skied them all over the bar and everywhere. But Dan, it's another game, another defeat, stuck at the foot of the table, 5 points adrift. It's not looking good for Sheffield United, I think we can say at the moment.
No, it's not, and you'd think that they'd be, you know, favourites for relegation now. But it's been such a surprising start. You know, last year they had a hell of a season. You know, they came into the league as the new boys. They hadn't been in the Premier League for a long while. You know, they got a different style of playing. You know, the three at the back and the two centre backs pushing forward, and how effective the wing backs are at that team. So it was really surprising. You know, last season, I don't think teams really knew how to play against that, but maybe there's a bit of teams are used to how they play now this season. You know, I haven't really watched any of their games, so I don't know if they're still really doing that. But you know, that's what they were good at last season, and maybe teams are kind of getting used to the way they're playing. But they made a few signings in the summer, didn't they? They made a few, you know, quite. I think Bogle from Derby, he looks like a player that's coming through. Can't really remember who else they signed, to be honest.
Max Lowe's from Derby and Ryan Brewster from Liverpool.
Yeah. So some young English players that look like they got potential.
And Aaron Ramsdale as well from Bournemouth, and Amptu on loan from Chelsea.
Yeah, so a lot of young English players coming through that Sheffield United squad. So, you know, they made additions, but I don't know what's going on with them. I'm really surprised. I think, as you said, Chris Wilder was left scratching his head, and I don't think anyone really knows why they've had a poor start. Because we know how they can play. We saw it last year with how well they started. So it's kind of a mystery for me why they're at the bottom. But it's you know, the gap is getting bigger now, so they really need to start getting results. And if they can't, then they're definitely favourites to go down.
Yes, they could be. Well, another side that is struggling at the moment is Arsenal. And Mikel Arteta says he's not worried about his position at the moment as manager of Arsenal, as Arsenal dropped down to 14th in the table after 5 losses from 10 games, their worst start in 39 years. It's a year. Well, when that match was played, it was a year ago to the day that Arsenal sacked Unai Emery. And when they sacked him, you know, he wasn't doing too well. I think 3 home losses in a row. But 12 months on, those same questions are being asked again about Mikel Arteta. I don't really know what to sort of say about Arteta, because Arsenal have looked a bit hit and miss, I think we can sort of say, this season. They kept Aubameyang. They improved on the squad. Maybe a few players should have left. You know, they didn't really improve in that defensive area as much. They brought in one centre back, maybe should have brought in another one. Improved a few more areas, but Arsenal season have been underwhelming, I think, to sort of watch. I think the best game really has been Fulham, off the top of my head, that I can think of. They played well. They went to the top of the league. At one point, they were fourth down in the league. That's how crazy it was. But what should Arsenal do next? Should they keep Mikel Arteta? Is Arteta safe? Because he needs time, but this is his first job in management. We have to remember that. It's his first job. He's learning basically on the job after being the assistant manager to Pep Guardiola. But what should Arsenal do next here? Should they keep him? What happens?
Yeah, it's a tough decision, isn't it? Because I think they'll stick with him. I don't think he'll be sacked now. As you said, it's his first job, and it's going to be tough for him. Under Pep, it looked like it would be a good appointment because of the teaching he's got from Pep, I guess. But he's coming to Arsenal. He's won them in an FA Cup, hasn't he? So he's not done too bad, but it's just the league position. It's very poor at the moment. Obviously, worth starting. How many years was it? 39, did you say?
Yeah, something like that. 39
yeah.
years.
Yeah, 39. So, yeah, he's having a poor run. But I think they'll stick with him. I think after I've watched a few Arsenal games this year, and I think what I've noticed is they're not really using the attacking third in the way they should do because they've got so many good players in that attacking third. Obviously, Aubameyang, he stayed at the club. That was a big, big. It was almost a new signing, really, wasn't it, on the summer because they really wanted him to stay. They got some really good players in the attacking third. Pepe, it's been a bit underwhelming, but he could be good on his day. Lacazette as well. But it's just the defence. They didn't really improve on it, did they? I know they brought in Gabriel, didn't they? But has he really impressed so far? I don't really know. But they're still starting David Luiz every single game. So yeah, they still need to improve that defence a little bit. I think as time goes on, if this run still goes on, I think Arteta will start to get, the fans will start to call for his head, and I think he'll be under pressure. But I think they'll stick with him for now and see how this season goes. If they can't, get into Europe for next season, maybe they need to change it up. But I think Arteta's safe for now.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Well, now moving on to the Premier League table after game week 10 and starting off with 20th place, it's Sheffield United sitting on 1 point. Burnley down to 19th with 5 points. West Brom up to 18th with 6 points. Fulham move outside the relegation zone, 17th with 7 points. Brighton stay 16th with 10 points. Palace down to 15th with 13 points. Arsenal are down to 14th with 13 points. Newcastle up to 13th with 14 points. Leeds are up to 12th with 14. Man City up to 11th with 15 points. Villa are down to 10th with 15 points. Manchester United up to 9th with 16 points. Everton are down to 8th with 16 points. Wolves are up to 7th with 17 points. Southampton down to 6th with 17 points. West Ham are up to 17 in 5th place. Fourth is currently Leicester on 18 points, not moving at all. Chelsea third with 19. Liverpool second with 21st. And Tottenham first with 21 points as well after getting a draw there. And we must say for next week's game weeks, there's going to only be 9 games played for next week for game week 11. As Aston Villa versus Newcastle, the game was being called off because of a coronavirus breakout in the Newcastle training camp. So all of us here at Ipswich Talk wish them all well and hope a good speedy recovery. That has been cancelled. That's the first game that's been cancelled under Project Restart since it came back. So that's the first one since March, I want to say.
It's pretty good, isn't it? The fact that they've got this far.
Yes, it is. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully that game will be played soon. It's going to be rescheduled soon, but we'll have to wait and see. Well, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Champions League. A Champions League roundup. We'll see how all English sides got in Europe this week. Some did well. Some are hanging in the balance here.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan, as always. And well, before we get moving on into our next section, I better mention our social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, go there. This one will be up at Fridays at 6 p.m. if you're listening to anything you missed. Dan Howell around about Ipswich Town. I will say it is box office gold. I still don't know how he didn't swear, but we got through it in the end. And our Premier League a roundup. But now, Dan, it's time for the Champions League match week 5. God, it's crazy. They're coming thick and fast. It's mad to think next week it's going to be the last round of matches for the group stage.
Yeah, I know.
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Well, we had Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea and Manchester United all in action. And here's how they got on. Liverpool finally qualified for the knockout stages and also topped their group on the same night thanks to Curtis Jones' first ever Champions League goal. I think it's the first ever teenager to score for Liverpool in the Champions League, actually, if I'm correct as well. A mistake from the Ajax goalkeeper, which I don't know how he didn't see it. It went straight over his head. He didn't even jump. Curtis Jones puts it in the back of the net. And Klopp described that as one of the biggest nights of his career, in management career, in the Champions League, which I thought was a little bit weird. But Liverpool...
I mean, you've won it.
Yeah, we won it, but it was a little bit weird. But Liverpool have secured a place in the Champions League for the 4th consecutive season. It was not long ago that they couldn't even get into the Champions League, but how times have changed. Moving on to Manchester City, a late goal against Porto was ruled out, but a draw was enough for them to secure top spot in the Champions League Group C, with Pep saying they are one of the best teams in Portugal, and we have qualified against them, and we played exceptionally well despite drawing. But the Porto manager wasn't very happy about Pep's comments about his playing style. And he said, if I had that budget, his players, and I still couldn't get a win, I would be sad too. So some shots fired there from the Porto manager. Man City have qualified as well. And moving on to Chelsea, they will finish top of Group E as they beat the current Europa League holders 4-0, thanks to Olivier Giroud scoring 4 goals, scored all of them. And he doesn't play. A little bit weird. Maybe he might start playing now. But the Frenchman has become the oldest player at the age of 34 years and 63 days to score a Champions League hat-trick in history. And the last player to score 4 goals for Chelsea was a certain person called Frank Lampard against Aston Villa in March 2010. But his manager, Frank Lampard, described his performance as amazing and was thrilled to secure first place in their group. But moving on to Manchester United and their qualifying hopes now have been thrown up in the air as PSG beat them 3-1, opening Group H wide open, with now 3 teams all sitting on 9 points. But it was a painful night for Manchester United. I think Marcus Rashford went off with a shoulder injury, if I've read that correctly. They missed plenty of chances and they were reduced down to 10 men when Fred was sent off. Well, Fred was given 2 yellow cards, but he was lucky to stay on the pitch after a potential headbutt was not given as a red card, but given as a yellow card after 35 minutes. Leading Solskjaer to saying, maybe I should have taken him off. Maybe I made a mistake, as he could have taken him off at half-time. But Dan, a good week all in all for English sides, but Manchester United, their hopes hanging in the balance of beating RB Leipzig or getting a draw out of them next week.
Yeah, good week overall for 3 of the English clubs. Obviously, getting through to the next round, good results for them. I think mostly for Manchester City because they've had such a poor start to the season. So I think that's giving them a bit of confidence going into the next round of the Champions League. Man United, they're the one ruining the party again. I said last week that they're in the driving seat to get through into the next round, but I watched some of the highlights of their game against PSG, and they had lots of chances to win the game. I think it was 1-1 at the time. Their first goal was a bit lucky, but it was 1-1 at the time. I think Martial had a shot that he should have scored, just skied it over. A lovely move from United. Cavani with a nice chip that hit the bar, and then Martial's shot got blocked. So they had a lot of chances. And attacking wise, I think Man United are looking good. I think in the attacking third, they look fine. Fernandes, Martial, I think it was Rashford and Cavani were the 4 that played. But defensively, they're so poor. They really are. They need to shore up that defence. The goals they conceded, the pace of Mbappe and Neymar really punished them, didn't they? The first goal maybe could have been avoided. I think the second goal easily could have. They should have just cleared their lines, and they kind of just bounced around in there. And I think Marquinhos scored the goal. And then, the third one, the pace of PSG just really hit them, and they've got quite a task now. You think they'll be favourites against Leipzig, but you never know. They just need a draw to get through, and I think they will do that. But you never know what might happen.
Yes, you never know with Manchester United. I think the last time they played RB Leipzig, they beat them 5-0 at Old Trafford, but RB Leipzig did get a victory last night. 4-3, quite a thrilling match. But then I just had to quickly ask before we just leave the section here, will Manchester United qualify? Will they get that draw, that win against RB Leipzig? They're first at the moment. They need to be first or second to qualify, but to be first, that'd be quite a good achievement for them because they will miss out on a lot of the big clubs.
Yeah, they will. I think they will qualify. I think they're probably favourites going into that game against Leipzig. I know they've got a good side now, Leipzig. They may have lost Werner in the summer, but they have got a good side. But I do think Man United have got enough to beat them, so I think they will go through. They would like to go through as champions, obviously, but I think PSG are easily going to beat Istanbul, obviously. So I think they've definitely got a win. Whether they can, I don't know what the goal difference is. I think PSG are 3 behind them, if I'm correct.
Manchester United currently sit on 6, PSG on 3, and RB Leipzig are on -2, which is sort of the big factor here. RB Leipzig are on -2 here.
Yeah, so that is a big factor. And obviously, when teams are on the same points, goal difference comes into a massive effect. So I think Man United will get through, and I think they'll beat Leipzig, and I think they'll probably go through as winners of the group. But you just never know with Man United, do you? They could just completely bottle it as well.
Yes, you never know. Well, we better move on to the fixtures that are happening for the final game week of Manchester United, of the Champions League group stages. Match week 6, so Chelsea are home to Kronostorm, and Manchester United are away to RB Leipzig on the Tuesday, and Wednesday, Man City are home to Marseille, and Liverpool are away to Midtjylland on Wednesday as well. Well, when we come back, Dan, we're going to do a little bit of a football roundup because we've got some good news in football. The soul is back in football. It has been quoted.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan as always. And Dan, we better get straight into it. It's football roundup.
It is, great.
One day we'll get a crowd to do that for us. So we'll go, hey.
Yeah. I was going to say you need a cheering sound effect on that.
I do, or I need somebody just to do it for me behind me,
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we have to work on zero budget. We're like Ipswich, really. We have to work on nothing, so we have to do it all ourselves. And I've got a bit of news first. Well, on Wednesday night, football fans returned to football. Finally, since March, fans returned to games, and it put the soul back into the football games. I think there's a few returned championships. Some Champions games had them. Wickham had them. They gave the referee a standing ovation, despite the side lost.
When has that ever happened?
I never, but they were the first games to have fans back at football games. I know Premier League's going to be having them back this weekend. 10 games are going to have fans. 10 games are going to have fans back this weekend. So that'd be nice to see as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But Dan, what is your news? I hear you've got some sort of news.
Yes, I have. There's, as everyone knows, there was the draw for the FA Cup third round last week, or was it this week? I can't remember.
On Monday.
It was on Monday. Okay, not last week, this week. But there were some really interesting fixtures. Obviously, there's 4 non-league teams in the third round. So there's some really interesting fixtures. Boreham Wood, they're in the National League. They got a home tie against Millwall. Good fixture for them. Chorley, who just beat Peterborough, which is a big surprise. They got a home tie against Derby.
And also sung Adele as a weird song.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Stockport County, of non-league as well. They got a really good tie against West Ham. But the big one that everyone's talking about, 8th tier Marine get a home tie against Tottenham. It's only the second 8th tier team that have ever got into the third round. Massive game for them. Jose Mourinho is going to have a big surprise when he goes to Marine's ground. And then the 5th one I wanted to talk about, there's a London derby happening as well, QPR v Fulham. It's good when a derby gets drawn out of the FA Cup. So, yeah, so good fixtures in the third round.
Yes, it's good to see a derby, but not to be rude, that derby's probably going to be a 0-0 or something like that. It's going to be a bit meh to watch.
Yeah.
But I think the one we had to mention, that Marine v Tottenham,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I think there's a thing going around that at the Marine thing, they've got fences and they've got numbers. So there's number 29. So if the ball gets kicked over that way, they have to go to house number 29 to go and retrieve that football. Imagine if Harry Kane boots the ball over. They're going to want to keep that ball. They're going to be, that's mine.
Yeah, they are.
That is absolutely crazy. Well, that is everything really on our football roundup. And that is, unfortunately, the end of the show for this week. We got there in the end, Dan. A little bit of a...
It was an interesting one, wasn't it?
Well, I can tell you something, Dan. Next week's show is going to be much nicer because we've only got one Ipswich Town game to cover.
Are you sure it's going to be nicer, George?
Well, there's only one Ipswich Town game to cover, so I would say yes.
Yeah, but there might be some Lambert comments again.
Okay, there might be some Lambert comments, but that just adds to the spice of having Lambert comments, I have to say. We've got some Premier League back, and we'll probably have the final of the Champions League, and we'll have a nice little break. And also, Dan, got to remember, it's Christmas. Come on. Got to be happy now.
It is.
It's somewhat. Yeah. After a miserable year, we've got to be a little bit happy. It's Christmas. Well, before we go, I've been mentioning social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram talk_pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows as a video form, so you can see our faces on YouTube or as an audio version on Mixcloud, so you can listen to us on the go. Highly recommend it. Why not? I do it. I actually do it. It's a bit weird. I do. Don't you worry. I just when I drive in the car, when I do go outside.
Yeah, I was going to say, when do you ever go in the car?
Yes, whenever I do. Well, I've been George. He's been Dan. We'll see you next week. And ciao.
Bye.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.